Hi, I am Rachel McLeod, and I am a licensed clinical therapist. And I'm gonna try that again. Okay. Uh, I am. That's licensed clinical therapist. It's not a thing. I am a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach, and I'm going to talk to you today about stopping flashbacks and how to stop flashbacks, and for good and for real. Really, this is wonderful because you really get your brain space back. This is one of the features of PTSD, and so it's really wonderful to make this stop because this can create a lot of pain for people. Sometimes it's just annoying, and sometimes this is one of the reasons why people are totally debilitated. And so making this stop is important, and it's important for many levels, but that's just the one of the most simple ways to understand this is it creates so much pain that it just really has to stop. And so um, this is this is easy to stop. I hate to say that word because I don't want to invalidate anyone's experience, but I really have a lot of fun with this. Um, because the results are so dramatic and they're life changing, and people can sleep again, and they can do things that would they couldn't do before because they could trigger the flashbacks. And so when they get that back and they can start doing things again, I am just having so much fun about this. So I really love this. And brains do this flashback thing, and they do it for a very specific reason. And that is not to torture you, believe that or not. It's actually to help you to heal, and to it's trying the brain's trying to heal itself. And I'm going to talk about why this is happening and where the brain is stuck, because that's really our deal, is that we want to help the brain through its healing process, and help your brain get what it wants. Um, I will show you where the conflict is here, and why I treat this the way that I do, and why it's so effective. Because if you can, it's just like any conflict. If you can solve everybody, like if your family is in a conflict, if everybody can speak what they need, and everyone can listen to it, and we can come up with new solutions, all of a sudden the conflict is gone. And what we have then is a new way of being in that family, right? And so this is the same thing that happens in your inner world. And flashbacks are an opportunity to really upgrade. And this is why when we're talking about PTSD, we're talking about, and we really talk about the recovery phase of this as post-traumatic growth. And that is because the brain goes through a massive healing after it can resolve and move through these things. And your whole system is upgraded, and you're wiser. And a lot of times when you have PTSD or symptoms of flashbacks, um, you're actually creating, even though you're in incredible amounts of suffering, and I don't expect you to celebrate this with me right now. When your symptoms are done, we can celebrate this. But at this point, I'm just going to talk about this. But to to handle and cope with and manage the massive amounts of pain you experience with flashbacks, you are building wonderful, phenomenal skills for life. And I that's just the way it is. Sorry. And I never tell people what that's going to be because I don't know. That's the other fun part of this, is that we're unraveling this thing and see what we're going to get. But I know it's going to be awesome. And just because I've done this so many times with people, that when we can take off, because under the flashbacks and the pain is when you pull that off, you're getting like valuable stuff in there. There's authentic parts of you. There's new information. There's new ways of being. There's just like more of your authentic self. There's this inner strength and this inner clarity. It's fantastic. It's like anyway. It's I just love this stuff. So, and it's really wonderful when we can resolve this. And these things can be resolved very, very quickly. We can resolve in the right under the right circumstances with the right under the right circumstances. We can really resolve a flashback in about 20 minutes to an hour, depending on what's surrounding it. A lot of times with a flashback, the brain will put a lot of stuff around it to protect it. It's kind of like, uh, I want to get a good analogy, but what's coming up for me is like a clam. It's like, something goes into the clam, right? It's like a piece of sand or some parasite or something, and then the the um the clam, that irritant right there, it puts all this thin around it. Next thing you know, it's this big pearl. That's not so how it works with flashbacks, because the stuff around it is like stuff that really creates and trips up your life. It creates a lot of problems, but you get the point. It's layers and layers of stuff. A lot of times we have to pick through that. That process can take a while. Um, and I'm thinking of, I want to be specific here because I want to be helpful. Um, Basically, when you get to the thing, that resolves quickly. The reason why you're having flashbacks, when you can get there, that resolves quickly. Sometimes the path to get there um, takes a little bit longer, but I find that um, when when we apply this enough, we can resolve this in about 2 to 6 months. And that doesn't mean nothing resolves until then. No, that means that we have to we're resolving things until we can get that one. But I find that flashbacks can be much more simple than that. So I may have more examples as we talk about that, but let me show you what's going on in the brain so that we can follow together. And if my brain wants to share more, I'm looking for scenarios with clients that flashbacks have taken a long time, and I'm not finding any, but nonetheless, that's the work. So let me tell you what's going on. Okay. In your brain, I am working on 4 parts, and these are 4 players that I am always interested in, and that we want to bring together and resolve the issues there. And this is your subconscious mind, your survival system, your conscious mind, and your body. We got to get everybody on the same page, and everybody has their own perspective about what's going on when there's a flashback, and everybody experiences, each 4 of these parts experiences flashbacks differently. Your body will experience them as sensations. If your chest is tight, that's a flashback. A lot of times, if you have a trigger and you're feeling stuff, that has happened before, and it's flashing up here because your body thinks, oh, this is what we do when that thing happened a long time ago, and this is what we're doing. And um, so a lot of body sensations, I'm always suspecting, especially associated with anxiety, depression, I'm always suspecting flashbacks. And matter of fact, I'm a yank on that. Yank on that neural pathway to 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 pull up that where it's coming from. But that's it's important to really start suspecting these things and learning the language and learning how they communicate so that you can use that information and really get what you need and get the information from them, because if we don't hear them, we can't resolve their issue. Okay. So the body, then we've got, I don't know what order I'm in, but we'll stay here. Let's talk the survival system. The survival system has its own response to flashbacks and things like that. And the survival system is all about, is it safe or dangerous? Safe or dangerous? That's really all it cares about. That's what it's come to the party for. Is it safe here? No. Okay. I'm going to deal with this. Is it not safe? Is it, I don't, I'm all tripped up. Hold on. Let me start over. I have symptoms of dyslexia that flare, that have to do with my words. And this little trickster intervention helps me every single time. Because what's really cool about this is your brain has to figure out, I'm crossing my legs too. Your brain has to figure out which fingers are on which side. And so it has to organize itself to, to proceed. Anyway, okay, where was I? Survival system. Okay, so your survival system. Oh, and I mix up my lefts and my rights. Anyway, and that will really flip that around for me. Um, so your survival system wants to know this or that, right? And if it's safe, it's chilling. No, you're not going to hear from it. If it doesn't like something, which means that it thinks it's not safe, it's going to sound the alarms, and it's going to start kicking up your defenses. So you might notice yourself being defensive. You might notice resistance. You might notice, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to, and you might notice that you might become more argumentative, or you might start dissociating. All of these things are your survival system saying all kinds of stuff, and we want to respect that. And that's who I'm listening to first, is your survival system. That's my priority. I have priorities. Survival systems, VIP. Then we've got your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is experiencing flashbacks by thinking about this. And it might be able to think about the issue. It'll focus on it. It'll really try to focus on what's happening, but it also will have thought distortions, and it'll also have your conscious mind. You'll think similar thoughts that you thought in the event, or any thoughts that are associated with that. That's it, how it does flashbacks. And then you've got your subconscious mind that does flashbacks, and it wants to show you images and stories and nightmares. It's not necessarily, sometimes it's pristinely accurate, the images that you get, and sometimes it'll be distorted or tell stories and things like that, and and of the original thing that is it's sending you flashbacks about. So those are the four places we want to work with this. And when what happens during a flashback is this. Okay, this is where I'm gonna act it out. This is what I talk about. I don't like acting, but here we go, people. I've been looking forward to this. Anyway, okay. Okay, so you have a traumatic event in your history, right? And that means it's in the back of your brain somewhere. And if it was traumatic, that means that your brain, at the time that it happened, it couldn't do the healing work and pull it all the way through the brain's healing process. That part got blocked. So what happens is your brain has to work together to get that through the process, and it will never stop. Its job is to do this, and your brain is neurotic, right? And so it's like, we got to solve this. And so anytime you relax, anytime this is triggered, your flashback comes up. And what happens with this is your thinking center says, ooh, what was that? And it wants to go focus on it. It's like, oh, give me this, give me this. And your subconscious mind wants to show you images of it. It wants to whisper in your ear. It wants to do all the things that it can do. And because it's really saying, hey, this is back here and this is causing us problems. I need this out where it can be healed, which it subconscious minds don't do healing things back there. So you got to bring it up to the front. So it's constantly like trying to kick this thing out of your subconscious mind. Here, take this. And so it's constantly giving you images of this thing because that's what it does. That's how it says, hey, I need this fixed. It does. If it had nice words like that, we would solve these problems, but it doesn't. It just says, and then you're like, you know, and you think your brain is attacking you, but no, it's saying, hey, can you fix this for me? But no, it's saying, and so that's what it's doing. And then your thinking center is like, ooh, what'd you send me? And then your survival system is like, do you see all those feelings in your body? It's like, reliving the same thing in your whole body, right? So you might be feeling frozen. Your stomach might be sinking. Your tension might be happening. There's so many things that your body is doing, which is then, I should have said it in this order, but which is your body is sending the information straight to your survival system, and your survival system's like, I hear you, we're under attack, because it just hears the distress in your body as we got problems. And so once your body starts flashing back, which it's always participating, your survival system's like, this is dangerous, stop. And since it has top authority in danger, everybody has to stop what they're doing. And so then, and that's the end of the flashback. Okay. And so what happens there is that when the survival system chops that up, the subconscious mind has to say, fine, let me go get this, throw it back there again. I'm coming for you though. I'm going to bring it back, but it has to go back where the memory goes. And your thinking center is like, but I don't want to. I want to think about that. And you're like, no, you don't. And so, because you're here and you're experiencing this warfare going on between all parts of you, and it feels like haywire, right? And it is, because this is all happening neurologically. This is happening subconsciously. There's subconscious distress. There's survival level distress going on. There's somatic distress, and there's conscious distress every time you have a flashback. And the flashbacks will never resolve until they get all the way through this process. And nobody wants to get along about it. Nobody wants to work together about this. And so with this conflict that comes dysfunction. You feel this, your heart's racing, your thoughts are racing because your inner healer is like, I only got so much time on this. I need to solve this fast, and it's whirling through all the things because, the kibosh is coming. Your survival system is going to become alert, and it's already alerted. And then you've got distress, and then and then the survival system comes and pulls you out of it. And once it starts that, it takes over your whole brain. It starts shutting down your thinking center. That's why after flashbacks or during them, you can't think very clearly. Um, you're kind of confused. You can't follow simple directions. It's kind of like it's very like you just don't have the same function in your thinking center, and every part of you, your body and your subconscious mind, now have to work for to follow the instructions of your survival system, which now you're in survival mode. So now you're going to freeze, or you're going to fight, or you're going to flee, or you're going to faint, or you're going to fawn. Okay. And the survival system isn't a place in your brain where you get choices. Once that's activated and you're under survival system, you don't get to choose your behavior. It's not a place of values. It's not a place of holding multiple perspectives. Once you go in survival mode, all your brain cares about is you and your survival. This is why you're not very empathetic. This is why you can't see all things from different perspectives. This is why if somebody asks you a question, you want to bite their head off, because you're not in the part of the brain that even does that stuff. And it says, I just shut the part of the brain off that did do that stuff, and don't talk to it. And so that's why you get snappy at people. And so all of this for a flashback. And your subconscious wants it resolved. Your thinking center is like, yeah, let's do this. Your body is horrified, and your survival system is no. So this is what we're working with when we're working with flashbacks. Okay. And so what happens once you're in survival mode, the survival mode, you come out of this by soothing the body. And so what you'll do during these moments is you will use your body to get out of it. If you can do this skillfully, you'll use an intervention. If you have no idea and you're not on the radar, you're going to start using your body unintentionally, unconsciously, to start calming down. This is when people will take walks. They will start eating, right? Using the body. The survival system is picking up the message. Hope you can calm down now. You sleep, using the body. You medicate. You distract. Watch all the things. You angry clean your kitchen. Those are all ways to use your body to start calming. Weighted blankets, right? Um, Glasses of wine, marijuana. We're using the body to calm and shift out of that brain state of survival mode. And the more your brain is going in survival mode, the more you have to do these things. And so, one of the ways we can really break through some of these coping habits is by making it so that you don't spend so much time up in here. And that's one of the end outcomes of this, is eliminating the flashbacks, is that if the flashback doesn't come, you don't go into a survival state. And so we really want to eliminate these flashbacks so that you don't go into the survival modes, and then you don't have to use all these coping strategies. This is the root of emotional eating. This is the root of shopping, of retail therapy. This gambling, right? And there's some really great positive things that you can do to cope with this, and you might be coping with that. But like, if you have to, that's not as fun as if you just all the time, as if you just need to. And so eliminating whatever is putting you in that survival system is really, for me, a top priority, because it just saves so much energy. And your brain should be functioning well. Okay. So, okay. So let me tell you how I solved this. Okay. And many people just keep distracting. They want to stay busy. They want to stay ahead of the symptoms, right? They want to stay ahead of the flashbacks. They want to avoid the fact the flashbacks. That I will tell you is the stuff that's built around this one issue. So the flashback will have all sorts of stuff all the way around it. And that is the survival strategy, you know, any things like that. Hold on a second. Let's see. So so many people are like, I don't, okay, so there are barriers to this. Some people would rather stay running from their flashbacks than actually turn around and face them. And I have no stones to throw at you for that. Because when we're talking about dealing with flashbacks, we are usually talking about dealing with some level of pretty intense pain, emotional pain. And then if you've tried before and you have not been successful, like, why would I do this again? And so, um, but what happens here is that number one, let me just tell you right off the bat, when you don't have to confront these things. You don't have to tell the story again. You don't have to think through the story. With flashbacks, I really, there are some people that are like, let me tell you my story. Those people boggle my mind because, and I had one of those today. As a matter of fact, she's writing me this one of the stories, um, and emailing that to me, and using interventions the whole way. Okay, because there's anyway. Okay, so, but it's because it's there's where you're activating pain, right? And so, but there's so many ways to do this where, especially because pain is what will bring out your survival system and stop the healing process. And so I don't, I try to stop people from telling their story. I'm meant to be honest with you. I'm not trying to hear your story. I mean, I will hear your story if that will help your brain. But the only people I am doing that for are verbal processors. Everybody else, no, because I don't want you to. When after you're not in pain about it, you can tell the story all you want. You can tell me 10 times. But if you're going to explode in agony every step of the way that you're telling your story, we're not telling your story. We're not trying to make you be in pain. As a matter of fact, if we can trick, there are so many brain tricks you can use to make sure that you don't activate the pain in that past memory and still heal it, still get the resolution that untangles this whole flashback situation. And so I share that if you're somebody that's like, I am never doing this work, Rachel, because I don't want to relive or revisit that. And I'd say, you know what? You got half of that on right. Never relive it and never revisit it. Great. But don't not do the work because there are tons of ways to do this. Um, and I'm going to answer all questions here on the side. I'm trying not to read them because I will get lost. Okay. But I will read them here in a little bit. Okay, but this is what I do. This is how I do this. I think I want to say that now. Okay, I want to stay where I was for a second. When we have a flashback, you do want to get to the root issue, and I'll talk about how to do that. But you can surf, and we're talking about surfing neural pathways, right? That's what we're working on. Where we want to find the root of this, and we want as quickly as possible and as directly as possible. And then we want to, and anyway, when we can get to the root by any one of your four players, we can get to the root from your body, we can get to the root from your conscious mind. Let me make sure I'm accurate on that. I can't think of an example where I would use your conscious mind. So maybe perhaps not. We can get it to assist us. Okay. And we can get to the root of this using we can resolve this subconscious with the subconscious stuff, or we could resolve this with the survival system. But ultimately, by the time we're finished, we've got to pull everybody into resolving this. But a lot of times, if we will just follow the survival system in and do the work there, the whole so much of the intensity will be released. And so where this thing in the middle of it was a 10,000 million, on a scale of 0 to 10, By the time we get there, if we just work on one of these routes using like the survival system and that whole organization, a lot of times we can bring that down to a 5. And then we can jump over into the body and we can work on it from the bodies. We can keep pulling on stuff from the body and we can get there and bring that down to a 3. And really by the and then, and then we can do a lot of stuff there just on that with some brain tricks, playing with the subconscious mind, and building some, anyway, healing programs, subconscious, no, not subconscious healing programs because they're conscious. Anyway, but we can start sending, like, we can kind of, I guess maybe we can tell the subconscious healing stories with the interventions and like send it on healing missions so that you don't, yes, there we go, we can send the subconscious on healing missions by talking with it in its own language, which is storytelling, and or like envisioning or images, and we can send it to do the work and use the interventions at the same time. So it will say, oh really, that's what we're doing, and go over there to the place you don't want to go and start doing the healing work, and you're using an intervention to bring the whole brain together to help the subconscious mind do that. And so that's a really nice way to stay over here when the traumatic event is over there. And so you can still get the healing work done without having to put it on your lap, open it up, pull all the pain all over your head, and wash yourself in horror. No, that sounds terrible. And we don't need to do that, but we can still heal. Okay, so what we are going to do is with a flashback, we want to know where we want to know, I wrote down my stuff in case my brain wanted to do all the things, which it does. We want to know what your flashback is. And with people that have multiple flashbacks, of different things, we are going to choose just one, and you will have a preference. Your brain will tell you, you'll know, like right now, if you're that person, you know which one, like, man, if I could get rid of that, my life would be so much better. That's the one we're starting with. So then we know what it is, and we're going to give it a name so that we can find it and we can trace it whenever we want to. And it doesn't have to be a logical, literal name, because that could be too distressing for you. We could call it purple bubblegum. And as long as your brain knows what we're talking about, we're good. And purple bubblegum doesn't bother you like some more literal titles could. And so we are going to then, we're going to know, when does purple bubblegum happen? Excuse me, I have hair. An eyelash apparently. And when does it happen? And so we're going to gather information about that. Is it triggered by something in your environment? Is it, what's happening? And then why. We want not just why, okay, because your brain, your subconscious mind wants to heal this flashback. No, like, why didn't it get through the first time? What was it about this thing that your brain couldn't resolve? And so it got thrown in the back in the garbage pile to cause problems later. Why didn't it come through and get hooked up and get released? Why? And that's really what we're looking for. When we get that, usually it's game over. So that's the hunt we're on. And we will use, so when I'm working with people on this, I am training them, number one, and I'm training them to be able to use 4 interventions, one of 4, and I'm trying to find the right fit for them. So I don't always teach everybody all 4, but eventually everybody will learn all 4. Matter of fact, I just did a training for my graduates on this because many of them were like, EMDR, what? We don't need that. So I just did one on EMDR because it is the one, especially with people with flashbacks, that can not be the right fit for many reasons, which I have videos on that. You're welcome to go look at why EMDR may not be the right fit for you. And that's why that's totally fine, because we can still do this work and help your brain heal itself using other interventions. So, but I teach people EMDR, energy medicine, thought-filled therapy, and emotional freedom techniques. And so, and by the time they're done with my 8-week program, they are better trained than most therapists in this. And I know that because when I took EMDR training, what I learned in there, I have my clients learning, using, and applying by the 2nd week of the program. So, and not only that, but walking themselves through 14 hours of use with that during the week's time. So we really apply the mess out of these interventions. And so because these interventions are helping the brain heal. um, with flashbacks, you don't need information. You don't need to talk about flashbacks. You don't need to gather information. You don't even need to know why. You don't even need this video that I'm talking about right here. You need to know nothing about flashbacks. The only thing you need to do is help your brain pull it through its healing pathways. That's all you need. And but the interventions help you to get through these layers. You know, if the event that happened was here, or the stressor in the event, um, and we need to get through all these layers of distress and all these layers of survival protection and mode. And so by using interventions, we can do that. And we're kind of cutting through. We're not cutting through. We're helping the brain resolve each piece that comes out. And so we're kind of pulling off layers. Actually, we're not throwing them down. We're pulling off layers and like pulling it through the healing pathways. And the brain will look through it. Your thinking center will look through it and find what it wants and what it's done with, and then it will start hooking it up to your whole brain. And so and then it keeps doing that, and it goes through this process. So by the time we get in there, a lot of work has already been done. So it's even worth resolving these things halfway, which I don't recommend. I recommend going all the way in, but it's like, why clean a car halfway? I would clean a car halfway because I am not a professional. And I don't want to clean a car halfway. But if you're working with me, we're not cleaning your car halfway. And you're not going to get that from my videos. So this is why it's good. It's because we're going to get all the way in. And so we're working there, and we're bringing. By the time we get there, we're now we know why this is happening. And so, and as we're using interventions, it's opening up, and your brain is getting to explore areas of it never was able to, because the pain will block it from getting in, because the survival reactions will come in there. And once the survival reaction starts, you don't get any further because you're out. And so our goal here is to get all the way in here to the middle, where your brain can now look at it and make sense of it, because it can now pull it through the sense part of the brain. And now you have new stuff up there that you didn't before when this thing happened. And now the brain is just working on it, and it will pull it through. That is the end of the flashback, because what will happen now is that it will be a memory that is hooked up to your whole neural network. Before, it was a memory that really wasn't. It was associated with some things, and it would pop up. But once you get in there, there's no roadways out. There's no neural pathways out. So you're just stuck until you've eaten enough ice cream. Your body thinks you're safe, and it finally relaxes, and it shoots you out, and now you're back into your regular thinking brain. And on repeat, where you don't get any control over what happens when that's there. Now, your brain will make associations with it. Your brain has hooked it up. It has a place in there, and it knows how to function with it. It knows what it's for. And as a matter of fact, it will wrap up with all your subconscious stuff. And really, your brain's job is to make you the hero of the story. And this is wonderful for people with PTSD, not so wonderful with people with things like narcissistic personality disorder. And I mean, that's a whole nother, right? And that's a whole nother ball of worms, but the brain is functioning in the same way. Everything that goes in there, you become the hero of your story. And when you've got a healthy balance of empathy, learning that you were freaking awesome and amazing is really phenomenal and very, very empowering. And so your brain will do that with even the past memories, and it's phenomenal at this. So that is really how we end and stop flashbacks for good. We help the brain do what it needs to do with these memories and with these moments, and we can do it in a way that's really, really simple and easy and really quick, as a matter of fact. And once we're done with one flashback, we're going to choose another one, and we're going to grab that one. And I really make a customized plan with people when I start working with them, so that we have a dashboard, because you can get really lost in the brain, and nobody needs that. Or you can get in there and do a bunch of really great work, but not have it be targeted and specific, so you get the outcome that you want. Um, and so having that dashboard really helps, because then you just know where your next step is. But the next thing you're going to do is you're going to find the next one, and you're going to start the same process with that. And then the next one, until you've cleared out as many flashbacks as you want, or as many as you can find. Or maybe you're like, I'm taking a break on flashbacks and I want to go work on racing thoughts. Okay, that's totally fine too because we're moving. And sometimes the root of flashing, racing thoughts is the same thing, the same root as a flashback. So if you can resolve the racing thoughts, to the root, you're also, you're getting the root of the flashback as well. And so you're also eliminating flashbacks. So as long as we're applying this work at the root, we can really cover a lot of things very, very quickly. Um, and then, and then once you're done with whatever you're done with, like, you're done with the flashbacks, then you want to step back and reevaluate how you're functioning now and how your life is going now and how those stressors were where flashbacks were at the root of them or whatever target you were working on. And you want to see how, because everything's going to be different. When you clear out flashbacks, you get a lot more energy back, you get a lot more of yourself back, you feel there's a lot more wholeness. There's things that you thought were really scary and horrible and now you're like, I can do that. And so you want to see where you'll go, what you'll do now that that's resolved, and that will really show you what your next steps are. Because we're looking at your when we look at your life, we're looking at your subconscious programs, we're looking at your survival programs, we're looking at your somatic programs, we're looking at your conscious programs every time we're looking at your life. And that's why I use people's lives to really figure out where we're going, where we're going to start, what flow we're going to take. And this is something I teach people because you know where your next work is through this. And so let me see, which I believe will be the next video that I'm making to talk about that piece. But yeah, so and then once you reassess and you look at where you're at now you choose the next thing and you grab that and you do the same process with it. And by doing that, you really can clear out more and more obstacles that are showing up in your life, make your life better and better, and bring your life into alignment with the life you actually want to be living, the life of your dreams, which is really the cool part. Because you're as you eliminate symptoms, you're all this energy is starting to flow back up because you used to have to use all this energy for like, are the flashbacks coming? Oh, the flashbacks got me, and now I have to crawl myself out of bed, or out of the bathtub because I'm, up in here salt bathing, or whatever it is, or all the damage you've done with, with the shopping to cope, or the eating to cope, and you have to pull yourself out of there. But when that's not happening at all anymore, now we're looking at the next thing. And the dashboard really can change the customized plan. We mark stuff off of there because solving the flashbacks may have resolved many other issues. And so this is really the process I take people through. And I think having you look at this and see that can really help you get what you're looking for, from your healing journey, and really get to your outcomes. Flashbacks do not have to stay here. They are there for a reason, and that is your brain is really trying to heal it. So I encourage you to get in there and help it heal. Um, if this is something that you want my help with, I have an 8-week intensive where I walk you through each part of this and make sure that you're trained and equipped and walk beside you every step of the way. And so if that's something that you're interested in, you can look on, up here under the title, How to Stop Flashbacks for Good and for Real. I have put a link there, and that goes to my website, which takes you to an invitation to work with me, and you can see the 2 options to work with me that I've got there. I also have a second one that is less intensive, and it's not the whole solution, but it can give you a really great start. It is the foundational work, and it gets you trained in the 4 interventions that you want to use, and that are a really good match with you. And then it also walks you through the exercises and the process, and we create your customized plan, and we rock and roll, and we really start working through a lot of symptoms. And the fabulous part about that is you can really use those 2, the things that we're working on there, to really resolve everything. That is the training up till that I got through it's not the EMDR training, it's my version of the EMDR training, and what I found in teaching people how to do this works. Um, And but you really can use that alone to really heal your life and you really get your life to work the way you want. I just have, 6 more weeks of, tricks and and like really juicy material that really helps you um, get the fine details of things and really build up all of your skill sets so that you can really get in the nooks and crannies of stuff. So that is what I have to share about that. So let me, I'm going to read the comments. So Raquel says, "Oh, I want to meet with you." Um, yes, yeah. Raquel, I absolutely, you are welcome to send me a message. We can talk about that and definitely read about, learn more about working with me using that link and read about what I'm offering right now and send me a message and we'll start that discussion. And I there's some testimonials I have in and one of them is from one of my clients and her what she tells me frequently is she says nothing else has touched my anxiety. And she's now coming off her medications. She's now like being able to go places she's never been able to go before. She's able to accomplish part aspects of her dream that she's never been able to ask to realize before. And I find that this is the really where I work is really at, I don't do marriage counseling. Don't take any marriage advice from me. As a matter of fact, I tell my clients that because there are professionals that do that, spend a whole lifetime on that. I am not one of them. And I, after hearing their advice, I'm like, oh, that is fabulous. Who knew? Anyway, but I really, and I don't do counseling. I'm not here to counsel you and tell you how to live your life. I don't do that. My job really is, let's get your brain functioning well. I know that you can make your own decisions and seek like expert advice. If your brain will work right, you will be able to do anything. What could stop you? And so this is the piece I find that is the missing piece, like learning how to get the brain to function well and cohesively and in alignment and in unity together, so that, which is like the foundation, right? And so that's really where my specialty is, and love to all the other people with all these awesome specialties. um, but I am not one of them. So I find that this is the missing piece with people with their anxiety. As a matter of fact, I used to do a lot of the other stuff. And especially after listening to some really great interpersonal neurobiologists that were just talking about brain function, and I really was able to connect the dots and why what I was doing was getting wonderful results for my clients. And I realized what it was that I was doing, and so I just got rid of all the stuff. I don't need this. This all this other stuff. I don't even need this. This is my specialty. They can go to someone else for this. This is what Rachel does all day. And so I find that this really is the piece that eliminates the symptoms, because the brain does not want those symptoms there any more than you do. It is not supposed to be walking around with the illness, but just like sometimes how the immune system doesn't quite work well, the brain can get stuck on stuff and then start really creating symptoms for you. And so it never wants to be doing that, and really starts resolving these things nicely and quickly. And we're talking about, playing with an electrical system. And once it creates a shift, it's at lightning speed. And that's why we can resolve these issues when we get this part right in 20 minutes, in 30 minutes, and it doesn't have to take a long time because everybody is standing ready to go. We just need to like stop fighting up in here and get along and help them resolve their issue. They're really wonderful when they can work well together. So absolutely, I will look out for you and any messages from you. So yes, flashbacks, they are, yes. So she said you're explaining me. Yeah. um Sandy Hill says, are you using EMDR? I do. I love EMDR. And I there's it's if all out of all of my interventions, if I had to give away one, I would give away EMDR. And that would hurt me. I would cry. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't cry over that, but I would be very sad. But it's I can do so much more with the other three interventions, especially with people who are really sensitive or highly traumatized or those sorts of things. But when EMDR is the right match, it's fantastic. And even if you're using all the other interventions and you like, EMDR takes a little bit longer too than thought filled therapy and emotional freedom techniques. Um, and so it's just a longer route, but sometimes it will bring stuff up. Like I used it today. I used it today with a client, and we like to I like to clarify a target, what we're focusing on, so that your brain knows this is the job we're after. And we brought it up, and it was really foggy and fuzzy. Like she was like, I can see it, but I can't really see it. And so I was like, let's do some EMDR, because it's basically like you're telling your brain, like, hey, look at this. This is what we'd like to know about. And it's like, scoot over, let me get in the driver's seat. Your brain gets in. And it's like, let me take you on a tour. And it will take you through your neural pathways. You'll know everything about that thing by the time you're done. And that's what makes it not a good fit for some people, is that it will take you straight into some of your worst nightmare traumas, and where you're not ready for it, or where you're not, you don't want to deal with it like that, or that your survival system says, what in the world are you doing here? And then it starts shutting you down and knocking you out. I mean, people have ended up in psychiatric care units because of EMDR sessions. So it's definitely not something to play around with. I really work hard to match people with the right ones. But I will tell you that 100% of my clients get to the point where they are a great fit for EMDR, because the more healing that you do, and the more skill that you build, there we go, the more healing that you do and the more skill that you build, you can use it with any intervention, because each intervention is just a different way to help the brain heal itself. And so some brains will love one intervention, and then you just can't quite get to it that one, so you kind of throw it, see if it'll how it does with this intervention. Oh, and it loves that. Or it doesn't like that one either, so you try another different intervention and it loves that. And so you really just keep, it's really based on someone's brain and what they like and preferences. And there's some people that yeah, that will only do EMDR to do their healing, and that's fine too. I have worked with, I have each one of the interventions I've used, I have been able to resolve help them help them no longer meet criteria for their anxiety, depression, or trauma disorder any longer, and get off medications if that's what they want to do, which most of my clients do. So, but yeah, so I've been able to do that with let me tell you here, I've been able to do it with emotional freedom techniques, thought filled therapy, and EMDR. Not with, I've never been able to do that fully with energy medicine, and that is but I still love it because it's so awesome. Anyway, I really like that. Oh, good. Sandy, you're learning now. Awesome. That's wonderful. That is just absolutely wonderful. I think people should be able to use these interventions at the breakfast table with their family, after a hard day at work, during work. I think we should totally have these integrated in our life, because there's no place that you don't take your survival system, your subconscious, your thinking center, and your body with you. And sometimes they have challenges with things, and it's nice to be able to help those parts of you out and keep moving. So I am thrilled that you're learning that, and I'm wondering, are you going to be practicing that, or are you using it for yourself? Let's see. Let's be nosy. That's what got me into this field in the first place. The amount of curiosity. How does that work? Let's see if we get a response. She has me wanting to click on her page and stalk her. Facebook stalk. Okay. Oh, where do you learn emotional freedom techniques? You know, back in the day, I got a training DVD set. Someone gifted it to me. Somebody lent it to me, but my life was on fire, and I was in the midst of my own anxiety disorder. I did not return that. I'm like, I need to find that woman. Anyway, so if she sees this, I owe you some DVDs. But so that's where I learned it. But in all honesty, like, you can YouTube it. You know, it's simple. You YouTube it and you can learn that there. If you want to use it professionally because you're a therapist, then you need to get, uh, who does that? I wonder if Tapping Solution provides training for therapists. I know that ACEP does, which is the Academy. Oh my gosh, hold on. You've asked me a question that I don't. Um, Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. I like them. And that's where I learned the first level of thought field therapy. If you're a practitioner, that's a really great place to be doing that. I preferred emotional freedom techniques training over EMDR training, but the EMDR training was invaluable. Um, However, I find that the EFT trainings are just more creative. So, and perhaps EMDR will get there. It's been a while. I've been trained. I don't even remember when I got trained in that. So they may have changed that a bit, but yeah. So anyway, and oh, if you're just wanting to learn, YouTube that. I mean, I like Brad Yates. That I like him. Those people use a lot of words, and don't ever let that stop you because you don't need words to. You need to focus on the problem, and that's really the strategy I teach. Lots of people will use words to focus on the problem, and that can be wonderful. But what if you don't have words? And I find that many people don't have words, and they will stop using emotional freedom techniques because they're like, I don't know what to say. No, figure out what to feel. What are you feeling right now? Use it. What are you thinking right now? Use it. What do you not want to do right now? Use it. You want to run for the hills? Use it. Do you want to fight your husband? Use it. You know. So anyway, you never need any words to use any of these interventions, and that's really one of the things that's really wonderful about them. But if you are a verbal processor and you need to talk and talk and talk and talk while you process and while you to focus, if that's how you focus, then you'll be able to find all the words and keep using it. I find that people require to move a whole anxiety disorder into remission using this is what I got from my specific and targeted process. Will take about 120 to 300 hours of specific and targeted brain work, and so um, that's a lot. And if you're doing this in weekly sessions with a therapist, it will take a while. And that's why I think it's always important to empower people to use it so that you can team up. They can use it at home where their brain is firing and misfiring and having all kinds of conflict and dysfunction. Like that's where you need it. Is brains, and then so you can. So we're putting those hours inside our time together and in your own life. And so you can really, and then if you have specific strategies, you can really get in there and clean things up and clean things out, and really do this job yourself in so many ways. But when I guide people in this during my 8-week intensive, we put in 112 hours of specific and targeted brain work. And so that's more than you would get in weekly therapy sessions with a therapist for 2 years. And then they walk away with the skill and the strategies and the knowledge of how to do this. And then they can take care of themselves for the rest of their lives. And that is huge if you've got this, because if you've had an anxiety, depression, trauma disorder, what your brain can do to you. And if you're not equipped to help it, it can really be a source of anxiety and stress for you. So I find that learning the interventions is part of the healing process, and not just learning the interventions, but learning how your brain works and learning how to work with your brain and how to help your brain get what it needs, and to be able to tell when your brain is experiencing dysfunction and when it needs your help and when it doesn't need your help. I think all of that is part of the healing process that can really help you um, trust yourself again. Because that can be trust your brain again, trust your thoughts, and because those are part of the symptoms. And so that's really one of the big healing parts of all of that. Okay, so but you know what? I have to share this little piece of good news. I have a client recently who like just I thought that we were looking at like the 300-hour mark, and I was like, okay, let's go. And it was like she just surprised me. I don't know what she did in her free time. I don't know how many hours she put in, but every time it was like, whoa. And she would show me the evidence of how her brain is working well, and sure enough, there it was. And just the calmness. And we had to totally change the plan and like put it on. Like now, I'm waiting for her to go through a really. I want to make sure people can go through a really big event, because the brain will start to focus on something, and once it's focusing, sometimes it will like put a whole cloud over you, and it'll feel like you've never done a thing of work, and you have, but that's how it focuses, and everybody's bringing up, and so it can be really intense. And so the thing is to be able to have the skills to work through something like that, and stay with it until everything clears. And usually those are major system upgrades, but they feel horrible. And so I'm since it's so early, I'm just we're just doing some exercises here, and I'm just waiting to make sure she can go through one of those things before. And we're doing the traditional therapy route. Um, so but I'm surprised by people all the time. Sometimes I just think we're going to be in here for a long time, and it's not. So you never know, but it's definitely, the work has to be done. We have to help your brain do the work it wants to do. So, all right. Oh, so yes, Sandy, you're an LCSW or an LICSW. Hmm. I wonder, what does the I stand for? We don't have that here. We're LCSWs. In Alabama. Well, awesome. Wonderful meeting you here. And so we are at the hour and 6 mark. And if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask. And we can call it good here. I think we've said all the things. And so, um, yeah, I know that there's a little bit of a lag and delay here. So I want to stay on because I'm curious about this eye situation, but perhaps I will just get off, and I will see you all later, and feel free to put that in there, and I will just pick up the comments when it comes up. All right. Wonderful hanging out, everybody. Good luck with your flashbacks and your plan to release and resolve those and to break free. And yeah, see you around.